Well, good evening, everybody. It is I, Nick, Pennsylvania, here as I am with my good friend Brendan Bond, who is having a little bit of an off night when he wasn't able to find the volume control on his computer. And I promise I wouldn't tell anybody. How you
It's
doing?
you know what? I'm doing very well, all things considered, even though for some reason my technology is not cooperating with me tonight. That happens sometimes. Anyone out there who is a who works with audio at any level understands the pain of trying to figure out why you can't hear something and then just to realize that it's muted. That happens way more frequently than it should for even us that have, degrees in that field.
Even professional photographers leave the lens cap on at
Oh,
times.
yeah, all too often. So I'm going to try. Hopefully, that's my struggling out of the way for this evening, but no promises.
Well, and I know you've got some stories, and you're bringing up something that's unsettled you a little bit. But before we get there, I have an exciting thing. Now, we have gone on record saying we weren't going to do anything like this, but some really interesting people with a startup have approached us. And I want to talk to you just one moment, everybody, about Stole Survivor. Now, they want you to get on the Stole train. Right now, it is December. We are right before the Christmas season. And of course, when I think of Christmas and carolers, I think of stoles and I think of mouse, things to keep your hands, your neck warm. These are all great things, but and if you don't, the people at Stole Survivor want you to know that stoles and muffs, they're not just for the winter time. No, no, because they have a new line of linen and light, airy cotton stoles and muffs. And we all know the harmful effects that UV rays wreak upon our skin. And this is just another stylish way to protect yourself. So if you haven't, check out Stole Survivor, get on the Stole train, and use our code Ivan Drago as the morally superior character in Rocky 4 for 20% off.
Sometimes we come across a product like this, Nick, where we just have to share it with people. And this is one of those.
This is
I have gotten so many compliments while out in the field thanks to my Stole Survivor.
so again, if you haven't, check them out. There will be a link. And again, use that code Ivan Drago as the morally superior character in Rocky 4. That's 20% off. Okay. So dogmen, and I know this is something you have talked about personally when we've
Hmm.
met, and this is one of those things where you oscillate between this is ridiculous and this really freaks me out. And you've pulled some stories. I'm really curious. You didn't prep me more than to say dogmen.
Dogman. So, yeah, this is one of those topics where when we say dogman, we're kind of talking about the intersection between what some people call werewolves, what some people call dogman, which is almost kind of like a upright walking canine.
I was really just waiting for you to say the intersection between dog and man.
Man. It's not a man dog, it's a dog man. They're completely different things. But so it kind of covers a bit of in some areas, it is, running on all fours, but stands up sometimes, kind of like what you get with Bigfoot or Sasquatch, where it seems to be some sort of a hybrid almost. The reason these stories freak me out, just personally, is like it's something that sounds crazy in the sense that there is no like analog in the fossil record. So with like Bigfoot, we talk about the flesh and blood theory, which is like, oh no, there is a physical animal that is eating calories and leaving tracks out in the woods and there's like a breeding population with theoretically with dogman or werewolves, whatever you want to call them, there has to be a supernatural element because there's really not an analog in the fossil record or in living accepted nature. So there has to be a supernatural element to it. And again, a lot of the stories sound pretty bonkers. Like we've had Thomas White on talking about werewolf history in Pennsylvania. We've had a few other stories about werewolves.
Yeah, and he really caught, I remember I stopped in my tracks. He really did catch me off guard. I was not prepared to hear that there
Hmm.
was so much werewolf lore in Pennsylvania. But of course, we talked about a story of Pennsylvania werewolves, so
Hmm.
I guess I shouldn't have been, but I was.
Right,
I
right,
guess to
yeah.
hear one story is not to know, is not saying there's a ton of it, and that's kind of what he
Right.
implied.
Right, right. And I know a few years ago we had Jamie and Jenny on to talk about their kind of micro study in the Shenango area, which
I
has had,
forgot about that.
yeah, which has had a bunch of dogman sightings over the years, especially up on like 51 and stuff. And whenever I first heard those stories, they really freaked me out because, again, whether or not, like, we're not saying what people are seeing is one thing or the other, but when you hear some of these stories from people who know the area, it you can put yourself in their shoes where it sounds like it's someone perfectly reasonable seeing something that theoretically shouldn't or can't exist. And they say, and people sound scared. The thing that's a little bit different with these kind of werewolf or dogman stories versus the Bigfoot ones is they're almost all bad sounding. With the Bigfoot ones, there's a lot of crazy stories out there. I shouldn't say crazy. There's a lot of really outlandish stories out there about like people having experiences with Bigfoot where, there can be a positive element to it where they think like, oh, this thing is, it's a beautiful creature or it's a guardian spirit of the woods or whatever
Or
you want
even
to
it's
say.
just a natural animal and
Totally.
it's still
Yeah, and
freaking you out, but
it still freaks you out, but you're like but it's like exciting,
so this has so are you going to tell me that there's an intentionality
That's what
in
it
these
could
that we don't see
that's
enough?
yeah,
Because I'm not
that's
super familiar with these stories, honestly.
right. Right. And that's why like I was realized I hadn't looked up a lot of these in a while. And I was like, you know what? I wonder just like if in Pennsylvania specifically, I'm like, I wonder if there's like other, stories that have come out since I last looked and everything. So I started searching around, and again, not, I mean, there's these sightings happen all over the country, but I was just kind of focusing on PA because I wanted to again put myself in the shoes of these storytellers. It's a little easier. So I very quickly came across a bunch of stories. So I took a smattering of a few of them that I thought kind of like run the gamut from ones that sound like a natural creature to other things that are certainly wildly supernatural. So just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a
Just kind of
spectrum.
an overview,
Yeah, just
really.
kind of a spectrum of these, and just kind of, and again, like you said, Nick, you haven't probably heard a lot of these stories before. So curious to see what you think about them.
Well, and I'll say too that as I'm listening to these, I'm going to be looking for the very few that I have heard or
Hmm.
conversations I've had listened to like on programs like Coast to Coast back in the day. It's
Right.
it's people saying that these were engineered hybrid sort of things. And of
Right.
course, I'm thinking like, what? Who's doing that, and to what point? So I'm really curious to hear
Hmm.
which and if any of these stories hit those marks. So I am made
Right.
entirely of ears.
So I'll put links to these stories in the show notes for tonight. It's funny that you mentioned Coast to Coast because the blog where I got all these from is from Lon Strickler over at Phantoms and Monsters, which we've talked about before. Lon has over the years has done a fantastic job of just curating stories. It's cool because in the blog he adds a lot of like his own notes and everything after the stories. So again, these are worth if you're into this kind of stuff, worth checking out.
All right, sounds good.
So we're gonna go and hop into it. Like I said, there's a ton more, but just kind of want to. So we're just going to dive into this. So this they have kind of fantastical titles, but I'm going to read them all to you because I think they're fun. Massive quadrupedal canine crosses road in broad daylight near Skelp Mountain, Pennsylvania. So that's
Okay.
over in Blair County. So
Now I'm going to say something real quick. How many canines are not quadrupedal?
That's a
I
good
know I'm already starting to like, but I
pick it apart. Right.
just want to be on
Well, I
record.
guess yeah. I mean, I guess in their natural intended state, unless there's some sort of a deformity or accident.
All right.
But
Well, take us down to Blair County.
so so JB writes in and says after he does some pleasantries with Lon, says on Saturday, September 1st, around 3:30 p.m., I was driving from Bellwood, PA to Antis Township, Blair County. This road goes up Skelp Mountain into Sinking Valley, which is a fun name. And it's right off exit 41 of Interstate 99. For a short distance, the road runs parallel to 99 on the left. There is a PennDOT location for winter supplies, followed by a park and ride. Just past that, I pulled off the road to collect some weeds to dry for my wife. As I
That's
was pull,
thoughtful.
it is thoughtful. Yeah, it's this is so I was warning Nick earlier. I get the giggles when I read some of these stories because like people say things like that, like it's like who doesn't stop on the side of the
Exactly.
road near a PennDOT location to collect some weeds? But this is probably pretty cool because he's probably collecting fun stuff, and I'm sure his wife appreciates it. And JB is probably a good partner. As I was pulling over, approximately 50 yards ahead of me, something crossed the road coming from a patch of woods between this road and the northbound lane of 99. Then it headed up into the woods on the mountain. I cannot identify what it was, but I'm certain it was not a deer, a bear, or a dog. It was on all fours, dark colored, ranging from brown to black. It was an overcast Sunday afternoon. It stood close to the height of a horse. Not a very large horse, but I was in a Toyota Tundra, and the back of it came up as high as my hood. The creature appeared very lanky, with a thinner, muscular build. It had long legs and a head resembling a dog or a wolf's. Its belly was raised about 3 feet off the road as it walked on all fours. I only saw it for about 5 seconds as it crossed the road and ascended the bank into the thick woods. I drove up quickly and jumped out, but it was too dark in the woods at that moment to see anything and it had vanished. And then he goes on to say he is 58 years old and have hunted and fished in Pennsylvania most of his life. So what are your first thoughts with that story, Nick? This is on like the more mundane side, I guess.
Yeah, no, I am actually familiar with this area because I drive on 99 all
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Right.
I was coming back from Harrisburg on Wednesday evening, if it were not for the weather, I would have gone this way. In fact, very frequently, I get on 99 for a hot minute and get on 56 so that I can go through Johnstown on my way
Mm-hmm.
back home. And I have some friends over there and some places I like to eat. And I just like the town of Johnstown. So I have been through Scout Mountain because I know he says it's off 99, but it's my understanding that it's closer to 56. I could be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but either way, I know this region very well.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's some stories associated with there in the Gallatin area, which is also off 56.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's the obligatory comment like, "Hey, I hunted, I've out in the
Right.
woods a lot." But if you're not familiar with this region, that is a just a super common activity.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is an area where I have a
Mm-hmm.
friend from the accordion world who
Mm-hmm.
has a full-time career herding goats
Nice.
and sheep. She is the deaf shepherd, said because she is deaf. So,
um,
but I mean, again, a lot of people out here are pretty
yeah.
knowledgeable of the forest and everything. I know it's kind of a hackneyed
Mm-hmm.
thing for people to say after having a thing like this. I do like that this person makes some statements about what, but he doesn't really have a lot of conjecture there,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Right.
appreciate, especially since we saw that video. You made me watch that video in Ireland, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was, of the
Yeah.
dog that had been shaved to look like a lion. And
Right.
my goodness, that the
So
sight of the video would have me think something very dramatic.
yeah, that's what it looked like. Yeah. So all JB says it was not a deer, bear, or a dog. So what else? is that size and, moves like that,
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah, this is more on this like it's an unknown, some looks like a canine apparently, but not a dog. So, um,
And I mean, it could have, I still maintain that it could have been a dog. Like, what if you had seen, because again, there's
mhm,
so many variances of dogs. There are so many that you don't see very often. And even if you're aware that they exist, seeing them in an unexpected place, like what if he saw an Irish Wolfhound?
right.
Those things, I mean, you've seen
They're
those.
they're nuts. Yeah, I love them. They're
They're
great.
very
Yeah.
weird looking.
Yeah, they don't look normal. And honestly, like unless you've been around wolfhounds or any of those size of dogs, it's hard to like you forget how big they actually are.
Well, and I
You
think
know what
with
I
those two,
mean?
I think their legs are really narrow and spindly, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken. It's been a while since I've had a look at one, but it's just I could totally forgive somebody for one being startled and then being like, I have never seen anything like that before. I don't know what I saw, but it was no sort of dog that I'm familiar with.
Right. Right. Yeah, some of those they're just they are really wild looking. Like they really are. So like that is a good point to bring up a wolfhound or any of those
And
any of
of
those
course
types of dogs.
there's other dogs like that, but I
Hmm.
mean, did it do anything unlike a dog?
Yeah, it just crossed the road apparently. So it
Exactly.
wasn't again, this was not one that seemed to have malicious intent or wasn't threatening necessarily.
And
Definitely
he
confused this
doesn't
guy.
put any of that on that. So
Right,
as a
right.
sighting of something weird, I like it. I think
Hmm.
it's fully explainable, but
Right.
I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to the other side of the spectrum now. I don't even want to read the title of this one because it's going to give it away. Um,
All right.
so
I'm
I'll go
gonna
back.
guess the title
Yeah.
afterward then.
uh, this sighting occurred on April 30th, 2022 in Birdsboro, Pennsylvania, specifically in the Birdsboro Preserve, which we had a story on a Bigfoot sighting in the Birdsboro Preserve 50 episodes ago,
Yeah,
probably, a long
way
time
over
ago.
in Berks County
Yeah,
there.
long time ago. So this isn't the first story out of this area. Um, this person goes on to say this area is located just north of French Creek State Park where the forests intersect. There are approximately 15 to 20 square miles of dense woodlands here, making it one of the largest forest regions in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful area. It was a crystal clear, warm spring day, and my 12-year-old daughter wanted to learn to trout fish. Good for her. We
Like her
decided,
already.
yeah, she's gonna be great. We decided to visit Hay Creek, which runs for 13 miles through French Creek State Park and into Birdsboro Preserve. We parked at the north end of the preserve on Old Route 82, now known as Hay Creek Road. We hiked up the old road past an active large quarry and continued half a mile beyond it. We found a suitable spot for her to practice wading in safe, shallow area of the stream with semi-fast, ankle-deep water. The day was busy, but many people were walking, hiking, and horseback riding, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. We fished at this spot for about 2 hours, gradually working our way back down the stream. And at one point, while I sat on the bank enjoying the scenery and nature, my daughter was fishing nearby. Suddenly, I heard a loud crash, like a tree falling behind us. It was strange because I didn't hear any chainsaws. It sounded like a massive tree was coming down. The noise was coming from just a few hundred feet away and was incredibly loud. Having been an avid outdoorsman for over 3 decades, I knew when something felt out of place. This noise was entirely different from the typical sound of a tree falling, followed by silence. The crashing lasted about 2 minutes. I stood up and looked around in the direction the sound came from, but saw nothing. I thought it was odd, and then the noise just stopped. About 30 minutes later, I heard the same crashing sound again, which lasted for another 2 minutes. Now I was puzzled and thought, what the hell is going on? This isn't normal. I told my daughter that we should start heading back down the stream and trying to find another spot. I still didn't see anything unusual, but remained alert. I suspected it might be a deer in the woods behind us, but the sound was deafening. Then we heard a loud crash through the woods. This time it was definitely closer. We walked about 200 yards down the trail when we began hearing the sound again, and it was even closer than before. We stopped and looked up towards the quarry in the direction of the noise, but still saw nothing. I suggested we cross the stream and fish around the bend. The spot where we crossed was about 30 feet wide and very slippery, so we took our time as the water was a bit high for my daughter. We were about halfway across when the sound of breaking tree branches erupted again. It took us about 90 seconds to cross the stream, and I was holding her hand to help her. All the while, the crashing continued, and I glanced back, still saw nothing since we were about 20 feet below the quarry where the old bridge was located. Where we crossed the stream, there was a 6 to 7 foot beam to step up to road level. I reached the top first and helped my daughter up by extending my hand. At that moment, I noticed something moving in the distance out of the corner of my eye. At first, I didn't see anything, but then I focused on a 40-foot pine tree at the top of the quarry swaying violently back and forth, at least 5 feet each way. I pointed to my daughter and said, "Holy crap, what the hell is that? Look!" The next 40 to 50 seconds would change my life forever. We watched the pine tree shake for about 10 to 15 seconds when I saw what I thought was an arm reach out from the tree. It grabbed a bird, which I believe was a turkey buzzard. Suddenly, this creature jumped from the pine tree to a large oak tree about 10 feet away and began climbing along the outside of the canopy. It maneuvered around something like a spider on top of the branches and then disappeared into the leaves of the oak tree. Keep in mind that the leaves are starting to bud, allowing us to see movement in the branches. It was about 200 or 300 feet away. Meanwhile, branches were breaking, large branches about 2 to 3 inches thick. This went on for another 10 seconds or so, and then the creature jumped out of the tree. These trees stood at least 40 feet high, and they fell another 10 to 20 feet out of a steep rock incline, about 60 feet total. I thought the creature would be dead from the fall. I'll never forget the sound of the impact. It hit the ground, causing rocks to tumble down the slope. When it landed, it was on all fours. It appeared a bit dazed and winded. Then it stood up bipedally on its hind legs, towering approximately 10 to 12 feet tall. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it a bear, a mountain lion, or a Bigfoot? The creature stood up and dropped back to all fours and jumped like a frog or a toad. It cleared 20 feet of ground effortlessly. Whew.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So
And
there's a
again, the obligatory 3 decades out in the woods
3 decades.
comment.
So the picture that the witness provided, I'll either put up on Instagram or I might use it for the episode image. This is titled "Colossal Tree Crime Climbing Cryptid Canine Encountered in Birdsboro." The photo, or the photo. I wish there was a photo. The sketch,
Yeah.
the sketch. It's almost like a hairless dog, like a gray hairless dog with like spots on it. It's pretty nutty looking. So this is like, what the hell? Like this is on the other side of the spectrum.
This is totally there's so much here,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know what I honestly don't know what to think. I feel like this is just like a tall tale, someone having a good time, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the part of me wants to be like, come on now. But
Hmm.
let's just take it at face value. I'm just gonna play that game.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that at all. I'm gonna presume it's a bear, but grabbing a turkey buzzard out like on the
That's
wing,
right. That seems tough.
that's a hard one. And the turkey buzzard, that's
They're
a
big.
big bird.
It's a big
And
bird.
it's
Like,
hard to just wrangle that.
yeah.
Like, have you ever like killed like try to catch a turkey?
God, it'd be so tough.
It's on the ground. You're
Yeah.
running. I mean, I remember being a kid and having to scoop up chickens and like it's not
If a
it's
if a if a bird doesn't want you to be holding it, they don't like it.
no.
Generally speaking. And again, a turkey
That's why
buzzard
one in the hand's worth like two in the bush at
right,
least.
at least. Depending on the conversion rate, yeah.
Right, right.
But yeah, so this is like a pretty wild story.
This story's buck wild.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
what to make of it. I'm inclined to just assume this is just somebody telling a tale, having some fun. But
mhm.
if they are to be believed, I don't
It's a
know.
toughie. It's a toughie.
Yeah, that's too far for me to travel, but I would just assume they saw some sort of bear
Hmm.
and then they were mistaken and their depth perception was off and the turkey buzzard flew by and its arm
Yeah,
was swinging.
like
And
this
then they
is
didn't see the turkey buzzard and those two things were totally unrelated.
or something. Yeah, and again, we know that like black bears will shake trees. Like if black,
Absolutely, yeah.
like again, not
They'll
saying this
rub
wasn't
up on them and everything.
exactly. Yeah, so there's just a lot of things that could be going
Well,
on here.
one of the things I was thinking too is like when he's talking about his daughter, again, that's really cool and all, but how it doesn't really say like she responded. He's saying
Yeah,
like it was deafening. Deafening?
yeah,
Is this just a cliche line or was it really so loud that it was like painfully loud? Because
right.
if so, like how was she reacting to
Right.
that?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, who knows? Maybe she is just like nerves of steel and like a super
Or just
resilient.
totally oblivious, like
Yeah. Or
this is what the woods are like.
yeah, she's like, oh, I guess this is normal. This is
Yeah.
fishing. But okay, so let's go back to the other side of the spectrum.
All right.
This one reminds me of again one of our early episodes. So we'll talk about that after this one. So I was born and raised in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and I still live here.
Oh,
This,
pause.
yeah.
When my family first moved to PA,
Hmm.
1989, we I lived on Queen Street in Pottstown. That's where I first played hockey over for the Pottstown Penguins, the jerseys in the hallway out here.
Pottstown
I learned to
Penguins.
play hockey. I played at the Hill School in Pottstown. So that's really cool because every time I say Pottstown, people out in Western Pennsylvania go, "Oh, where they make Yingling?" And I say, "No, that's
No, yeah.
Pottsville. This
Pottsville,
is
complete.
Pottstown
Yeah,
between
don't.
Reading and Philly." So cool, Pottstown,
Yeah,
awesome.
so this is a Pottstown person. So this person says last year a friend and I went for a ride to catch up with another friend. It was March 2020 on a Saturday night, coinciding with the weekend when quarantine started. We were on Route 422 around midnight, and it was strange because the highway was usually pretty busy on a Saturday night. However, we saw maybe three cars during our 30-minute ride. After finishing our visit, we started making our way back home. It was around 2:33 a.m. and again, we were pretty much the only car on the road. There's a grass patch that divides the east and westbound highway. We were in the fast lane between the Collegeville and Royers Ford exits when all of a sudden we passed something on our left in the grass. We couldn't see it until we were right next to it, and only managed to catch a glimpse for a second. This thing appeared to be on all fours, possibly eating roadkill or something similar, but unfortunately I could only see it from the waist down. It was much larger than a deer and had long, unkempt orangish and reddish fur, similar to the color of a red fox but a bit lighter. What really struck me were its legs. It had canine like legs, but they were huge and muscular. The shape instantly told me this creature was not something you wanted to mess with. The legs resembled the drawings I've seen of werewolves or other evil creatures. I sensed this thing could also walk on two legs. After passing it, I asked my friend who was driving, "Did you see that?" And he replied, "Yeah." Then asked, "What was it?" To which he responded, "I don't know." Neither of us Great conversation.
Yeah,
Neither of
Fred's
us,
not really much for words, is he?
yeah, it's just real to the point, real stoic. Neither of us brought it up again during the ride because we were trying to process what we just saw and didn't want to sound crazy. That's actually fair. You hear that all. You hear that a lot. You do hear that a lot with
Sure.
certain sightings. So I know we're being a little facetious. Um, when I got home, I told my boyfriend about it, and he had no idea what kind of animal it could have been. The next time I saw my friend who had been driving that night, we both agreed that whatever we had seen did not match the description of any animal in the area and was quite frightening. He calls it the beast. A couple of months later, another friend was leaving my house when we heard something across the street growl low and guttural, scaring him straight into his car. He had been an animal control officer for years and said that nothing around here would make that noise. After a month after that, my boyfriend was taking out the trash. When he got to the front door, he heard scratching and sniffing. He said it sounded like a pig, but obviously it wasn't a pig. This past October, another friend was sitting in his car in my driveway waiting for me to come outside. I noticed his doors were locked When I went to get in the car, he mentioned hearing something that sounded somewhat human but didn't know what it was, which scared him. Once I got into his car, I told him everything I had written here. I ended my story by saying, a few months ago, I saw something on Route 422. And before I could say anything else, he exclaimed, I saw it too. So I asked him what color it was, and he described the same fur that I saw. He then said, when I saw it, it was running on two legs across the highway, and once it saw my car, it took off really fast, like nothing around here would be able to do. My heart was racing as I listened to him. I knew he wasn't making it up. I was relieved that someone else had seen this creature. He didn't know what it was either, but he said it was about 7 to 8 feet tall and looked nefarious. He agreed that the legs looked evil. He saw it around the same time of year as I did, and I was about the same time of night too. I drive that highway all the time looking for it each time, but I haven't seen it again.
Okay. How do legs look evil?
Uh,
Like legs on their own.
isn't that a Prince?
How?
Isn't that a Prince song? Um, but there's a lot. Yeah, there's a little more color commentary in this
Well,
one,
there's a lot
but
of reading into things. Like again, the fate that it looked malicious, it
yeah, nefarious. Yeah.
nefarious. Yeah, nefarious legs at that. This one is like maybe they saw something. Well, one of the curious things. So I did laugh when it says it was about 2:33 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking like 2:33 at 2:33 in the
233.
morning.
Yeah,
Like,
precisely.
it said it could only see it from the waist down, but it was on all fours. So this is like how do dogs wear pants sort of question.
Right.
So you could only
Yeah.
see like the back end of it, or you could only see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Maybe it was just like the angle,
Yeah,
like
that's
you can only
what
see it from the back. Yeah.
I think that could have been worded better to
Hmm.
be better understood what they meant.
Right.
Um, Beyond that, they could have seen something weird, but there are elements as a story
Hmm.
that this reminds me of like classic Hellhound sort of stories where
It does.
now that
Yeah.
you've seen it, it's
Right.
like
That's
staying around you and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah, that's what I think is interesting about this one is like they're like this person is making the connection that what her and her friend saw on the highway a few miles away is the same thing at their home making these weird noises.
Exactly. And
Like,
again, as a story, that
yes.
was the first place I went to when she's
Mm-hmm.
talking about her friend's car was locked. And again, like if you hearing something like that, and we can presume you have a phone,
Yeah.
wouldn't you call your friend and be like, "Hey, don't come to the car. There's something really weird. I'm
Right.
gonna get out of the way." Or like, and the other thing is like an animal control person. Okay, maybe that. I mean, nothing against that. I don't imagine all of them are experts. They're going to be able to be like, "This is no native animal."
Right. Yeah, it's not they're not necessarily biologists. Yeah.
I
Um,
will say I am enjoying these so far. Like I think
yeah.
to me the first one is the one that holds the most water. Is like, dude, can I
Mm-hmm.
believe this is real? That last one, the Pottstown one, I guess I could, but I think that the person that's describing everything is putting a lot into it
A lot of
beyond
intention,
what
like you
was
said.
seen. What's
Yeah,
that?
agree. Yeah, a lot of intention, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. So I got two more. I got two more good ones for you here. So this next one is from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. So
Boy, there's just a lot of places.
that's the thing is, yeah, and I specifically because there were a bunch that were again around our area, but I wanted to
Yeah.
like get out and because again, in my head it's like, okay, well we have all these ones up near Shenango, and that's probably
So
that's
now we're
like
going out to Bucks
yeah,
County
yeah,
here.
up to ye old Bucks County. On the evening of August 7th, 2020, my son and I visited the apartment to move some belongings in. While we were standing on the back of his truck in the driveway, we both turned around unexpectedly. We noticed a strange black creature creeping at the end of the driveway, trying to pass us towards the farm across from my cabin. It quickly turned around and vanished. We both agreed it didn't resemble a dog or a coyote. We finished unloading that evening, and I kept asking my son what he thought the creature was. He said he didn't know, but it definitely looked odd. I decided to write it down as I've always done. Smart man. 7 months later, on March 1st, 2021, it was a cold and windy early morning. I put the trash out hours earlier and was working on my computer when I heard a loud bang. Immediately, I knew it was my trash can. So I put my jacket on and shoes and grabbed my flashlight. It was a little after 3 a.m., and since it was pitch dark outside with wildlife in the area due to the nearby woods and farmland, I needed the flashlight to see as I walked down the driveway to the road. As I reached the trash can and began pulling it up, I heard a car horn and the sound of someone slamming on the brakes. Looking towards the stop sign, I saw a black figure illuminated by the car headlights, standing in the middle of the road. The creature dropped to all fours and started heading in my direction. I also noticed the driver standing in the road. Within seconds, the beast reached my driveway, noticed my flashlight, and stood up on two legs, boxing with its front paws and growling. The growl sounded almost like a snore. It had yellow eyes, stood about 6 feet tall, and had black, spiky hair with drool dripping from its mouth. Suddenly, the car peeled out and made a left turn towards my driveway. The creature dropped back to all fours and disappeared in an instant. The car stopped in front of my driveway, and the driver yelled out, "What the hell was that?" before continuing down the road.
Wait, didn't even wait for a response? Just,
I'm
what the
sorry.
hell was
What the
that?
hell was that? Like, I just,
Spat on it.
yeah, I just like, I don't know. That's a strange element. I'm so sorry. I just like picturing this all playing out as a cartoon in my head is
Yeah.
just, I don't know. But I walked backwards, shaking nervously towards my front door. Once inside, I felt upset and couldn't shake my head. And couldn't shake my head in disbelief. I stood by the door with the outside light on, waiting for the car to return. After a few minutes, the vehicle sped by my driveway and continued in the same direction it had been heading when it encountered the creature. The creature resembled something from a horror movie, exaggerated and grotesque. I know what I saw. I don't drink or do drugs. I care for my wife who suffered a massive heart attack and has dementia. I haven't seen this creature since that night, but when I sit outside at night now, I feel the need to have two guns with me. I've researched this, but haven't found anything related. I keep looking in case something comes up. I hope I never see that creature again, but still think about it whenever I go outside at night. If you have any stories similar to mine, please let me know. And then they apparently have a long dialogue about Dogman in the area.
What's the second gun for?
Yeah, I guess it was just dual wielding. Just out there akimbo at 3 o'clock in the morning in Doylestown. It sounds like a
Yeah,
bear. It sounds like a bear. Like it's not like everything about that says bear.
this
You know?
sounded reasonable. This started out really
Right.
reasonable.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
mean, dude's probably. I believe the dude's scared,
Sure.
but it's just. And again, if it's like a supernatural creature, like again, what are you carrying that's gonna help?
Silver bullets.
Silver
Now,
bullets,
one of the
maybe.
things I want to ask you before going on,
Hmm.
because I think you have one or two more left
Yeah,
in the
I have one.
holster.
I have one more. Yeah.
You know what? No, I'll hold this question
Okay.
since you only have one more.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go straight to this last story.
Yes, yeah. Let's go to this last one. So this one I specifically grabbed because it wasn't from Eastern PA, but from Clearfield, which we've talked about a lot recently.
Yeah, right in the center, of course,
Right.
our friend Kate, who was on
Mm-hmm.
recently out in that way.
Right. I saw this and I was like, oh, Kate will appreciate this story, hopefully. So the events took place in Carthus Township, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania, in the fall of 2001 when I was 9 years old. We lived down the street from Benton's Market. I can't remember the street name since it's been so long, but it was before a bend that led to a company headquarters with big rig trucks parked there. At the time, my father was away for his construction job, so it was just my mother and me. She worked at the Perma Grain Product Factory in town. This incident must have occurred on a weekend or during a school holiday because we were both home at the same time. I frequently heard bobcat screams in the woods behind our house. The local wildlife was incredibly diverse, something I no longer experience now that I live in Pittsburgh. There was a wooded area nearby, and we even witnessed two bears during our time there. Now, to this person's credit, in 2001, seeing bears in the area was not nearly as common as it is now.
I mean,
So
still, in that area, I can say
mhm,
it is was more common than say,
more.
because I know we've had bear here in our
Hmm.
downtown area on a couple of
Right,
occasions. The
right.
numbers definitely are up, but I know this area well.
Hmm.
Not crazy, but again, so far this sounds
Reasonable.
extremely
Yeah.
reasonable. Let's go on.
So they go on to say, however, I will never forget the night our dog, Lucky, went absolutely ballistic, barking at something outside or on or near our front porch. I remember looking out the window while my mother was asleep and initially mistaking what I saw for either another dog or a coyote. What I saw was unforgettable. Until I recently read reports about a supposed dogman, I never thought to contact anyone about this. I don't know how to explain it. I only saw a canine that was easily 6 or 7 feet long. It was visible for just a few seconds, but it remains clear in my memory. My mom woke up and joined me at the window, and she saw it too. To this day, we both swear we witnessed something extraordinary. The creature's fur looked different, much more mangy than the other wildlife in the area. We think it was drawn to the food we left out for the neighborhood stray cats. After a few seconds, it bounded off. It was not upright and moved on all fours, yet it was taller than any NBA player that I've ever seen. I was visibly shaken by this experience and felt stunned. My mom called my dad and woke him up to talk about it for hours. Neither of us wanted to go to bed afterwards. That night turned into the first time my mother and I stayed up and shared stories until 3 a.m. I clearly remember my mom telling my father that it was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Her only friend in town was skeptical of her claims at first until I confirmed what she saw. This experience has lingered in my mind as well into my adult years, and I still wonder what that creature was and if there are more like it. Interestingly, there have been other sightings like this in the Clearfield area, so I thought I would share my experience with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this. I like that story.
Mm-hmm.
I totally believe that this is a thing what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm like, I only saw it for about 10 seconds, but in that time, mom woke up and came and saw it too. And you see it for about
Mm-hmm.
10 seconds. I don't know how certain you can be. One, it's bigger
Mm-hmm.
than any NBA player I've ever seen. How many NBA players have you seen? Living in
Right.
Pittsburgh, living in Clearfield, no offense.
Yeah. Yeah. But
But but I do believe that they saw something. I think it's interesting that the term mangy is used because
we were just talking about wolfhounds.
not only that, but also we've talked a lot in the past about different like Bigfoot things being bears with mange. That is a
Hmm.
common thing that's said as an explanation. I don't know how
But
you
in
feel
ca-
about that, but
but in cases like this, it doesn't sound like if you're saying, okay, this thing looks, you know, just different than a dog, but like
yeah.
moves in this way. She refers to it bounding away. Like a 6 foot mangy bear isn't crazy, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Like
And
that's not like I mean, that's still unusual, but it's within the realm of known things, you know.
exactly. So I think that this is other than maybe the first story,
Hmm.
this is totally believable to me.
Right.
I definitely get it. I like the story. I liked all of these stories,
Oh, they're all
to
fun.
be
Yeah.
honest. But I feel that you ended and began with the most realistic, the most reasonable for me to accept. Now,
I
the
did.
question that I held on to though
Hmm.
was all of these descriptions.
Hmm.
The only thing I think I can find like four things that they have in common. One, they all are dog like.
Like, right.
They are all larger than the person's
Hmm.
expecting. They all have hair,
Hmm.
and they are every witness is startled by it. Beyond that,
Hmm.
coloration, actual size, behaviors, mannerisms,
Hmm.
nothing else. Like in one, it's scooping birds up, large birds, one of the largest birds in the area. in flight. Another one is picking up Karen from the side of the road. Another one's it's digging through the
Yeah.
trash. Now, again, I almost said a bear will eat Karen and a bear will dig through your trash, but a bear is not grabbing large birds in flight. So,
Mm-hmm.
there doesn't seem to be a lot that ties these things together. Other than it's just an animal of unusual size that we can't quite put our fingers on.
Right. I think that's what's happening in a lot of these cases is very similar to what we see, in a lot of UFO cases and possibly some Bigfoot cases and things like that, where like misidentification has to account for a large swath of these, right?
Yes,
And one of the things that you were mentioning, the things that like seem similar about all of them, is where the dog like elements come from seem to either come from like how the face is shaped, like it has like a muzzle, or like in the one for was it Doylestown, has like I'm not sure if there's a term for like how dogs' legs are, where like the knee points the other direction. I'm sure there is. I'm sure a biologist could explain that. But like that's something so you go, oh, okay, that's not a. If it has those things, it's not a bear. If it has those
yeah.
things, it's not a.
Nefarious, I think, is how they would describe a
that's
dog's leg.
that's how they were describing it. Yeah,
I think
nefarious.
that if you ask any botanist,
Yeah. Um, but it is interesting because like there are some things that are the same, but it sounds like it's a large swath of things. Some of these could be, again, bears. Some of them could be known dogs. We also haven't brought up the fact that we've talked about before with out of place animals. What if some of these are accounted for by exotic species?
absolutely.
Like if I saw like what's there's a type of wolf that's like African or something that is
Oh,
like
those like painted dogs.
yeah, stuff like that like that like but they look really crazy, like just different because they have like real long legs and they're kind of gangly. Like if I
Well,
saw like if I saw a hyena in the wild,
yeah,
I wouldn't like because it's like yeah, like I would say a hyena is dog-like, but it is more something else than dog, you
yeah. I
know.
would never describe it as being a dog, but dog-like for sure. And the
Right.
interesting thing too is
Mm-hmm.
the first story was in rural Blair County, between like
Mm-hmm.
Blair and Cambria and Bedford County areas,
Right.
which again, very rural. Your biggest population centers in that immediate area are
Mm-hmm.
Altoona, which is only big by central PA standards, and then Johnstown, of course. And then we ended with one that's extremely realistic to me. Again, what I would say most
Right.
believable to
Right.
me, and that was in northern Clearfield County. Again, very rural,
Mm-hmm.
where
Very raw.
Clearfield and DuBois are your largest places. And we're talking about like places with like 12,000 people.
Yeah,
That's
no,
as big as it
yeah.
gets. And so there was a reason I was saying, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because your statement about exotic pets and whatnot, well,
Mm-hmm.
Bucks County, Berks County, these are much more densely populated areas
Right.
where just the likelihood of that, there's places with some significant money out there. The fact that, or not the fact, but the odds that there could be somebody that has exotic animals that have gotten away, much more probable in
Right.
those areas, I would say, just because of the numbers game.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
if somebody had an exotic pet in Clearfield County, totally reasonable to suspect. I'm sure people do, but if one got out, unless they were in downtown
Mm-hmm.
Clearfield, you're probably less likely going to encounter it.
Well, right. And like that's the thing too, is one of the things I wanted to bring up, this kind of reminded me of that we talked about again, one of our first episodes when our buddy Dave was on, talking about that long black-haired creature he saw run across 28 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That
And
like
interesting wasn't he was working at the zoo at that
he
time, I do
was, yeah,
believe.
yeah. And he said it was like again, it didn't look like a dog, but it was dog-like.
Yeah.
And like that is kind of the through line through all this is like a lot of these sightings, at least again, I picked 5 out of a list of dozens and dozens just on one blog, you know. So like
Right.
this is not an exhaustive study, obviously, but I think this is a good example of how like a lot of these do sound like misidentifications, you know,
Hmm.
of something else that doesn't necessarily need to be paranormal, which again is juxtaposed with a lot of the stories we hear coming out of, you know, the Shenango area over here on the western side of the state, which sound very paranormal, you know. So maybe I just picked these stories because they scared me less.